JB, I got a little issue here, okay? We're college football guys. Last week, you did a pro, prospect game. You were covering it.
Pre-pro, still technically college.
Yeah.
Athletes, sort of.
Okay, I'll give you that. But then today we're at a high school. I mean, are you trying to become like the king of all football? Is that what your game plan is here?
Well, maybe at least in the city of Orlando, which is where we are tonight on this beautiful January evening. Welcome.
City beautiful Orlando.
City beautiful, yeah.
Yep.
At the campus of Lake Highland Prep, where one of my kids goes. Let's see, I got the official family pass. That's me.
I've got no such passes because I have no kids.
CNL Stadium, the Holloway Track and Field here, and thanks to Coach Bullock of Lake Highland Prep football, they were state champs this year. He's a D3 guy, and was more than happy to get us a little.
It's a big deal in the state of Florida to be a state champ. Texas, Florida, Ohio, New York to a degree. I mean, but New Jersey, the Friday Night Lights thing runs deep in those states, and here in Florida, a lot of Division III head coaches have come basically to recruit because there's just not enough Division I schools in the state of Florida to accommodate all the talent that's down here. And Hobart's done it, Union's done it, and some of the teams that we've seen in the playoffs did it as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we got to tell you about a Stag Bowl that happened. We're going to name our Players of the Year and Coach of the Year. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some odd ideas coming up in the NCAA right now. Well, with the sunglasses on, we'll say this is still season 14 of In the Huddle. So as I kind of previewed here, first things first, before we talk about retirements, etc., we need to talk about the Stag Bowl that just occurred, JB.
I heard there was a Sparkle Man sighting, 2 different jackets this year. Very impressive, Frank.
Very well may have been. Raised about $1,400 for the Sager Strong Cancer Foundation, and wore purplish kind of by accident as the first one, and gold, which people were like, well, that's Mary Hardin Baylor's other color, but that was not the aim. They're more of a yellow than the gold I was wearing out there. But we did appreciate D3 Photography letting us use the photos to sort of show it after the fact. We are not a video broadcast on D3Football.com, but Pat and Keith and I did our same spiel. Got some great post-game interviews.
Yep.
The final score 57-24 in favor of Mary Hardin Baylor, the national champs.
Didn't see that one coming.
Even at halftime, we didn't see it coming because it was 19-17 Mary Hardin Baylor at
Close
halftime.
Game,
Jefferson Fritz with that big interception really turned things around in a game that seemed like it was possibly going to turn back to North Central's favor a little bit. That interception was huge. Led to, just a performance that from Kyle King. We knew he had it in him to a degree because we had seen that second half against Hardin Simmons, but overall 436 yards passing, 22 for 29, 3 touchdowns, just remarkable. And on the way over here you were saying it was amazing how he seemed to catch fire in the playoffs. Take me through your as a defensive back in your former life, your kudos or thoughts on Kyle King in his season and how it progressed.
Well, and you have to give him a lot of credit too. I mean, literal intestinal fortitude, because he had to go to the emergency room, for some stuff that we had talked to him about leading up to this big game. So it wasn't like he was able to play in every game because of some injuries. Had struggled with a little turf toe here and there. But yeah, when it came to these playoff games, Frank, he was just lights out. I mean, I know Reading filled in for one of the playoff wins, but when his team needed him, King and Jordan was really the story of the 2021 postseason. Those two virtually unstoppable, and kind of going back to what we were yapping about way in the spring of 21. This young offensive line of the Crusaders, over time, it took 20 games, but they just learned to dominate, and really it's just a spectacular performance in the Stag Bowl. I thought the Crusaders might lose to the Cardinals, and boy, was I wrong.
We'll talk more about North Central in a little bit and what this all means for them. But after the game was done, I basically said to hell with asking you the retirement question, Coach Fredenberg, because you know what, it just never seems to lead to a yes no matter what, or any kind of accurate information.
Just a little sidestep here.
Yeah, always. But we didn't necessarily see it fully coming this time, and then he goes and surprises us a couple weeks later with the announcement that he is retiring. Coach Harmon is taking over, defensive coordinator. He did head coach for them. Yep. That Albright game that I attended a couple of years ago, when they went up there and well, they tested the lights on the scoreboard in that game, that's for sure.
Sure did.
But he has the experience. He's going to have to restaff his coordinators and other coaches pretty much in their entirety, it seems like, as we've seen Coach Lee and Coach Thrash on the offensive side.
Albion Christian, I think they've...
Abilene Christian.
Abilene, that's the right word, yeah.
Yep, but they are going to be going over there. So it'll be a definite change, but I have a feeling Fredenberg, who his daughter Corey admits has no real hobbies that she could identify in our pregame show back when, will still be involved. You don't leave your imprint on that, and I know
Chairman Emeritus.
Yep, Coach Harmon is going to make sure he embraces that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Coach Isernia with Coach King at RPI.
Absolutely.
Welcoming him back to always talk to the players so they know where the roots are with that program. And best of luck in retirement, Coach Fredenberg. We do appreciate the time you've given us over the years, for sure. So there's the winners, and Kyle King has said repeatedly to us in different formats he'll be back.
Yep.
One player that will not be back for North Central is Andrew Kamienski. And, North Central first, we'll take the team as a whole here. They took it pretty hard, as you would expect, that the way that second half went.
Yeah.
They weren't the ones crying about the question of, was there running up the score going on? The players sort of just kind of watched after the game and stayed out there for a while after they lost in the Stag Bowl. But it sort of was, I think, for Coach Thorne and company, making them sit through that to more than I've seen other losing teams in a Stag Bowl. Kind of like, I want you to take this in. Remember the feeling of it, because the guys that are coming back, you need to remember this to win it next time around. Thoughts now on North Central, what that loss means to them?
Well, it certainly, it had knocked them off a pretty high pedestal, because they had, really had run the table for a good portion of the 2019 and 2021 season, and did so convincingly that it seemed like they were a slam dunk to become, back-to-back over a extra year period thanks to COVID. But the Cardinals still have a lot of the key ingredients to get them back to this championship game. Luke Lennon, I think, is only a sophomore. Greenfield, the running back,
Ethan,
Ethan Greenfield, he's amazing. He's like a bowling ball, just running over guys left and right. But I think the probably the best learning opportunity that North Central will have is kind of figuring out. And they did deal with some injuries on the offensive line. I think we saw that in the second half with some of the struggles that they had moving the ball. If they can fortify that core group up there, they'll be back in the conversation. Kamienski, I had a great time covering him at the Hula Bowl here in Orlando. He's working out in Boca right now, hoping for a shot at the NFL or maybe the USFL, which is this new spring league that may or may not have it. We don't really know how they're going to be getting players, but it's another opportunity for him, possibly the XFL, which I think is another year out. And so we'll see. Kamienski's really the one player, I think, in Division III right now that has that kind of opportunity like we've seen in the past. I don't know if he gets drafted like a Ben Barch or a Quinn Maynards or anything like that. He'll probably go the UDFA route, maybe play a little in the USFL if he gets a chance. But we'll keep our eyes on him, and we wish him all the best.
Yeah, getting that invitation is unique. This is not a pay-for-play type of bowl game. There are plenty of those that we've experienced and seen along the way, but this is invite-only scenario, and he was the only Division III player invited. I got a chance to speak a little bit with our friend Andrew Kamienski and talk about the Stag Bowl and what's next for him. And this will not be our only foray into the draft and the pro prospects, etc. We'll be doing a lot more about that during the postseason, intermittently, I guess I should say, as we get closer to it. But here's a little beginning discussion about what to expect next. Andrew, welcome to Boca Raton, Florida. We'll get to why you're here in a second, but a lot of folks wanted to hear kind of a little further removed now from the Stag Bowl, what your feelings were about that night, and what's next to the team, because obviously you're close with a lot of guys, Luke and the entire team. Take me through that night, your kind of emotions after, especially halftime when you guys are down by 2, and then things just kind of went haywire. You get a little banged up. Take me through that night.
Yeah, I mean, that night was a little bit of a bittersweet feeling, as obviously the outcome wasn't what we expected, wasn't what we wanted, but it was a humbling experience to show that, okay, yeah, there's other teams, there's other good competition out there, and I hope for the guys that are still there at North Central, like Ethan Greenfield, Luke, D'Angelo Hardy, those type of guys, of remember that feeling and take that into this offseason to not have that feeling again. So as we went back into the locker room, everybody shared like their story, they were talking, and everyone was still being emotional, and I was kind of the guy to say, hey guys, like, look what we've done the last 2 years to change this program around to now we can be considered a powerhouse in Division III football. So there's a lot of positives to take away from it, and there's negatives also. So it was a good experience, and I just hope those guys have learned from it, and that I know from talking to them still that they're attacking it hard in the off season, and I know they can't wait to get back on the field next year.
I noticed something that kind of is enduring in an image for me, because I've done this for a number of years at the Stag Bowl. The losing team usually goes straight to the locker room, gets their press conference, and gets out of Dodge. North Central stayed on that field for a long time. In fact, right as I was getting off the field, out doing all my post-game stuff, they were finally starting, your team was starting to get off the field. Was that kind of by design by the coaches? Did they kind of say, stay out here? Or was that the players saying, we want to watch this and feel this? What was going on there?
No, so we have after every game, we have our tradition chant, and then just Coach Jeff was talking to us, and then we were all just taking in the moment. We didn't expect to be out there as long as we were, and it was just kind of a feel thing. Everybody was saying goodbye to the seniors. Everybody was going around and saying, hey, good season, all that stuff. So it wasn't on purpose that we were out there that long, and we kind of just let Mary Hart and Baylor do their thing, and we didn't want to avoid. I also wanted to go and shake hands again and talk more with a couple of their guys, congratulate them on a great season and all that. So respect to them. It was a great game. Great coach, and respect to him for retiring. I hope he enjoys retirement, and as he should. And it was, like I said, it was an experience that I'll never forget.
I did see you seek out Kyle King very early on, and you were definitely respectful to the max. So anybody that would think otherwise, that was not the case. You guys were tremendously respectful on the field. So I'm glad you did address that. Now, okay, the game ends, and you knew you had the Hula Bowl coming up. JB kind of chronicled that last week. Give me a self-assessment about that weekend. We tell a lot of people that the game itself isn't where a lot of the things that need to happen at those events happen. Give us what happened even before that event.
So leading up to that event, I had known I wanted to make a decision on which agency I was going to sign with. So I took that week to kind of just gather my thoughts, not really talk to any outside information besides just me, my mom, and my dad, and I informed my brother a little bit about what I had intended to do. So I made a decision to sign with Brandon Stevenson at Next Gen Sports, a fairly new agency, taking a risk, and I have loved every second of it so far. And they got me down here early, a week before the Hula Bowl, to get acclimated into the weather, because I'm not used to the heat and how much your body's going to change and how much more water intake you need. So they wanted me to get down here and understand and get acclimated to the weather. And then leading up to the Hula Bowl, that was an awesome experience for me to be the only Division III kid there, going up against Power 5 schools, Power 5 talent, and it was crazy. So first practice is Tuesday, and it was a rude awakening for me. It's you're lining up, and there's a guy across from you who you've never seen someone at that size, that physicality, who's way more athletic to me. I've played against way better receivers than me, so it was Tuesday was a little rough. Once I got my balance and understood what I need to do and how much more technical it is, and then Wednesday and Thursday, I think I had showcased my skills pretty well that, okay, yeah, I can play at this level. It's just going to take me a little bit to get used to it. And then the game comes around on Saturday, and that's what everybody expected it to be. It's going to be a little bit unorganized. It's hard to play a game when you only had a week of practice. The game plan isn't what everyone's expecting, and then some guys don't show up to the game because their agent's telling them not to. So it's like, it was just, once the game came, everyone was like, all right, let's just go in, showcase our skills, and get out and get healthy, and then on to pro day training.
With the targets and whatnot, again, it's tough to get targeted with that many guys involved too, with all the talent out there. But we did notice you had some great blocks downfield as receiver, and some of the intangibles that we brought up about your season overall in 2021, kind of that role player type mentality. Assess that part of it, though, the game itself for you.
Yeah, so I just took it as an experience to showcase every part of the game. You know what I mean? A receiver is supposed to run routes, they're supposed to go down the field and make catches, but it's the blocking, what are you doing when the ball's not coming your way. So I wanted to just showcase and show everybody that I could do all aspects of the game, punt returning, kick returning, all of that type of stuff. So I just took that week to just say, I'm going to do whatever the coaches want from me, whatever the scouts want, whatever they ask. I was just there to be a team player like I always have been.
So then you drive 3 hours south, basically, to Boca Raton, Florida, where we are right now, at the Sinesta Select. Thanks to them for welcoming us here. But what are you doing here? Where are you guys working out, and whose idea was it ultimately?
Yeah. So when I had originally signed with Brandon Stevenson, he had told me that I'm going to be training with Game Face, and they are based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. But then he had told me they had just partnered with Lifetime, and they had a great facility down here. They want to move their pro day training down here so you can get outside. You don't have to worry about waking up and it's dark outside up in Minnesota and it's -10 and snowing. Like, we want our guys to be able to come outside, get acclimated to nice weather, get in a good environment, and just pretty much work every day. And that's what it's been. It's been a grind since I've been here, and it's something that I've never been a part of, and I love it.
How sore are you?
I actually, not too bad. They do a good job of recovery. They do a whole bunch of stuff. I get massages every day and recovery, the Normatec boots, ice baths, all that type of stuff.
Now, one of your closest friends, obviously, was Brock Rutter, who went through the process, essentially, got signed by the 49ers, and COVID and other things interfere with his trajectory there, but he had the opportunities. He went through a lot of this process. What has his advice to you been in this whole thing?
He told me the day I got down here, I gave him a call just to ask him what what to expect and what to expect from the Hula Bowl, and he said it's gonna be weird. You're gonna be alone. He's like, not a lot of guys know you. They don't care who you are. So he's like, just stay positive, go out there, play your game, and he's like, just do what you need to do. He's like, don't go out there and be nervous. Don't fold under the pressure. He's been a real help throughout me this entire process, and obviously we remain in touch to this day, and I can't ever thank him for that.
When did you yourself say to yourself, basically, pro football, this is going to be something I want to actually try to go out and do? I know we all have the dreams of the pros when we play sports as kids, but there's a reality check that comes along too. When did you say to yourself, this could actually happen? This is possibly real.
So I got a lot of attention after the 2019 season and the ridiculous numbers our offense put up. So you get a little bit of, okay, maybe this could potentially happen after my senior year, and I started to realize that I actually have a chance once all the scouts started coming to North Central. It was throughout every day at the fall camp, a couple times throughout the week during the season, to realize that, okay, yeah, there are a lot of eyes on me, and I have to take this opportunity. So it was about midway through my the 2021 season, my senior season, that I was going to have a chance to come and play.
If it's not NFL, there's the USFL, there's other avenues out there. There's European football we've seen too. But I mean, for you, you've seen your friend not necessarily get as far as he wanted to in this whole thing. what is your plan B? Is there a plan B here, or are you just focused right now on plan A and that's it? How do you face this?
I mean, there's obviously you gotta have plan Bs. I mean, obviously you go to college, you get your degree, so that's always something you can fall back on. But right now, your plan A is in my mind. It's my lifelong dream is a couple months away, so it's. Right now, there's no reason for me to focus on a plan B. My education, my degree from North Central will take care of itself if football doesn't continue. And you know me, I'm a football guy. I'm gonna play in the NFL whether I can or can't. Canada, any one of those leagues, as long as I'm around the game still, that's what I've always wanted to do.
And Canada, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I forgot that one in the mix there. But there are opportunities out there for sure. What's Coach Thorne been saying?
He's been super, super supportive. He's just been asking me to fill in, just keep him informed about what I'm doing, to bring new stuff back to North Central to get the guys that are still there that might have the same opportunities that me and Brock have, so that they're more prepared than we are. So, I mean, Coach Jeff, Coach Thorne, Coach Spencer, Coach Janisek, the whole coaching staff, NCC family has been nothing but supportive for me since the day I walked on campus, and I'll never be able to repay him for that.
Let me ask you to do two things. First, talk to folks out there, to the players that have the dream, and sort of, you know, a lot of people are out there telling them, no, it's not going to work out. Don't think it's going to work out. Yeah. Give them kind of the pep talk of, you know, where this could go. I mean, look at you get the Hula Bowl invite and everything else. Tell any player watching right now what they have to do to at least get the opportunity to showcase.
You just have to do everything the right way. You be a team first guy, don't be that selfish guy, and you have to live it. Football is not a thing where you can just go out there on Saturday and perform the way you think you can. It's hours of film study, it's the right nutrition, it's the weight room, it's helping the younger guys, getting them up to speed, as you saw that what we did with Luke this year. It's a team sport, and that's what everyone needs to start understanding, because there's so many I want to do this or I can do this, but it should be as a team we can do it in order to have those guys be able to have the opportunity that I have.
Your feeling is basically your team helped showcase you ultimately because 100%. It was a team effort, and
especially at the receiver's position.
Well said. I mean, that's a mature thing too, because there's a lot of I, unfortunately, when you get to the upper levels. And then, you know what we do at the end of every interview with a player, and you still qualify here, any shout outs, any family or friends out there?
Yeah, I just want to shout out my mom, my dad for doing everything that they do. My twin brother out in Arizona, I talk to him every day. Grandparents, my mom's mom and dad, my dad's mom and dad, my friends back home who support me every day. And then I'm going to give a special shout out to our assistant receiver coach at North Central, Dylan Warden. Whew, I'm going to get a little emotional with this one, but without him, I wouldn't be playing football anymore. He's a really special dude. And then I'm going to shout out North Central. They have done everything for me and given me the opportunities and the tools to succeed, and I couldn't be thankful.
I'm going to ask you the question. Tell me the story of why you attribute it to Dylan. It is.
So when I originally transferred from Winona State University at my freshman year, I came to North Central, and day one popped my quad, and was out for 2.5 weeks, and I was inches away from just saying, all right, I'm done playing football. This isn't meant for me. I was the lowest of lows, and not even knowing him, he had texted me and said, hey, Andrew, hey, can you come meet me in my car and let's just talk? And I'm not going to go into detail about what that conversation was because it's between me and him. But from that day forward, he's been a mentor to me, my best friend, and someone that I'll look up to for forever.
So you go from nearly quitting to now a pro prospect. This is that time when it doesn't matter what color you wear in the field in Division III, everybody's rooting for you. Ask Quinn Miners, ask Ali Marpet, and everybody in between. This is everybody rooting for you right now. So do us proud. You already are doing us proud, but let's see where this goes, my friend. Good luck to you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for coming out here.
Thank you. And thanks again to Andrew for all his time and allowing us to, kind of dive in here a little bit deeper. He was great with you on Saturday at the Hula Bowl, or last Saturday, and with me as well. So thanks to him. Okay, so pro stuff coming up, like we said, in another show, or a little bit more of it. But one thing we did not do yet this season, and I think that it's time to do it, and we're not going to release it like we did with the Twitter series we did in the spring.
Yes.
We are going to actually name, at this point, our players of the year, and that's going to be on offense, defense, special teams, rookie/newcomer, however you want to look at it, and coach of the year. We'll start with coach in a second, but I want to give you the opportunity to kind of put the asterisk on this, and this is sort of similar to what we said back in the spring in terms of how we go about in the selection process in the first place. Take it away.
Yeah, so in making these selections, I very intentionally told Frank, we can't pick any of the guys that D3Football.com did. I mean, they got honored already, and they're great picks. I mean, you could definitely, Jefferson Fritz, Blaine Hawkins.
You did it again. See that? Maybe we can name Blaine Haskins as somebody that...
Can some quarterback, last name of Haskins, come bail me out one of these years? So anyway, some things never change in the new year. But yeah, we wanted to try to sort of think outside of the box. We weren't going to look at like the All-American sheets and all that, because there were some guys who were first-team All-American here. They were not on any lists everywhere else. So there's a little bit of subjective criteria in here that we used. But yeah, we just thought it would be nice to recognize some other guys who had outstanding seasons, and so there you go.
Yeah, it shouldn't be viewed as your second class if you're being named by us, because we actually feel in our selection process we're involving some other aspects of it that should be included in D3Football.com and vice versa. So we can't argue against who I helped pick in the ATM podcast.
Yeah, sure.
But there were things, now that we're a little bit more removed from the playoffs, especially, we could look at the playoffs and say, who really was that kind of but-for cause of them being in the playoffs, or getting far enough into the playoffs. And that's the type of stuff that we really want to take a step back and look at. We'll start with coach of the year. I got to be honest, and this shouldn't be a surprise to people that watch us, and for those that are going to sit out there and tool on us that we disrespect him or his team this season, you need to take a step back and think about the entirety of what we did this season to try to support this team. And I probably have given it away now, but
maybe
Coach Isernia of RPI deserves tremendous credit for what he was able to do to bring together his team, because the school didn't allow them to be brought together really on the football field the way that you would expect during parts of COVID where other schools were able to. Yep. They weren't, and yet they were able to get as deep as they did into the playoffs.
Elite Eight, yeah.
Losing against North Central, but who didn't really? They were a buzzsaw, we know. But Ralph Isernia, I said it to him in person, I'm going to say it again, his best coaching performance ever, and that includes the Johns Hopkins visit a couple years earlier, a couple seasons earlier and everything. This was the best to me. Your thoughts?
Well, I remember when I got to finally meet Coach in person after all these years on the field at the ECAV, and my sort of tongue-in-cheek joke to him was like, just give us something good to talk about. This is what we're a talk show, right? And there was nothing you couldn't. I mean, every single week there was something exciting to talk about with RPI. The way they just would come back from these random circumstances, like the onside kick call in the Union shoes, the shoes game, that was crazy. What a perfectly timed. I mean, they beat Cortland on the road, which was a big
that was a huge win.
Game, and that was another the combination of play calling, the fact that those guys never quit. Like, they were literally so many games decided by a single point or 3 points or 4 points or something. It was crazy. So
Cardiac City.
Yeah. So I know Coach Ralph probably got a few more gray hairs under that visor of his, but we're right there with you, Coach, and congratulations. You are our National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, we probably should call it Coach of the Season, basically, because we did have the 2021 scenario, so we'll call it the Coach of the 2021 fall season. And with the rest of these, so we may actually accidentally keep saying Coach of the Year or Player of the Year, so apologize for that, but you get our meaning here ultimately, and hopefully we'll never have to make this distinction ever again.
Yes, please.
Much like saying that Mary Hardin Baylor won 20 games in the calendar year, which is a tie for the record with another team that did it this past year, which was North Dakota State, I believe.
Okay.
So there you go, making history in ways that we hope to never see again.
Right.
Offensive Player of the Year. This
Haskins?
No, it's not.
Oh.
Nor is it Hawkins, because of the reasons we discussed earlier. But it is a name that we did name earlier in this show.
It is.
And congratulations to Kyle King. Those stats I read from the Stag Bowl were not an anomaly. Ultimately, that second half versus Hard Simmons, if he did not put together his second half in that game, Mary Hardin-Baylor may not have made the playoffs based on how the ASC was treated in Pool C. Ultimately, it was a huge situation that he matured before our very eyes on that field and brought them back in that game. And Kyle Jones did a great job trying to get his team to bounce back after all that. But the quarterback of the night clearly was Kyle King that night and under the lights at the Stag Bowl in Canton.
Yeah, and like we said before, Kyle had to overcome some injuries, new guys on the offensive line, just a lot of new moving parts. But and it's really his first year as a starting quarterback to pull off what he did, especially in the Stag Bowl national championship game, now national television, 36 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, unbelievable. Just
400.
300. 435. Yeah.
He
math. No, they said
436 officially, at least. So I'm looking at when they sorted out.
No math.
Yeah, there would be no math, and you still isn't. I got it for you. Right? I got the answers. But no, Kyle King, congratulations, the offensive player of the fall 2021 season for In the Huddle. Let's go to newcomer/rookie, and it makes sense to do it here. The counterpart, basically, to Kyle King in that game, people might discount his season based on one game, and we're here to tell you not to do so.
Yeah, he's going to be a name you'll be saying a lot over the next 3 years.
Absolutely. Luke Lanin, I can't remember a scenario like this very much. Okay, Mary Hardin-Baylor had a freshman quarterback technically in the Stag Bowl back in 2017 and lost that game ultimately, but that was not the same scenario where you had Luke Lanin start and finish as quarterback for North Central and had to mature on the fly. There's no doubt. He played baseball for North Central in the spring. I get that. So, he had maturity in sports at the college level already, but playing football, trying to repeat as a national champion when you weren't the quarterback as that national champion in the first place, it takes a special player to be that. And Luke Lanin is our newcomer rookie of the fall 2021 season. And what are your thoughts on that man's performance?
He was the classic dual threat, right? He could throw the ball, he can run. We saw that kind of right out of the gate in that first, huge game against Wheaton, what he was kind of bringing to the table. And after coming, to follow a guy like Brock Rutter, who was such a great quarterback for North Central, not small shoes to have to fill. And he got in there, they ran the table all the way to pretty much the halftime of the Stag Bowl. It was one of those things, I think injuries and other things kind of caught up with the Cardinals in the second half, some individual matchups that just didn't go their way. But otherwise, that team was kind of perfect there for a long run, and they'll be back again, probably just as strong, if not, who knows, maybe even stronger in the fall, next fall.
I don't know if you remember the discussion or the fun skit we did with the players, interviewing players.
That was fun.
But his long division answer, as when Dakota Kremens asked him, what would you do for show and tell, and long division was his answer, it actually highlights this is a smart player, not just on the football field, but smart in general. And I guess it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody when you put the factors of sports, just having that kind of competitive edge, playing 2 sports at North Central, and the brains behind it, that he's going to be a success with that skill that he has, because he knows how to use it and will continue to grow with it as well. So congratulations to him. I know maybe it's a little bittersweet with the ending their season had, but still we hope that he can take some excitement from the fact he's our newcomer rookie of the fall 2021 season here on In the Huddle. That leaves defense and special teams. So we're going to start with defense, and this was
tricky.
Tough.
Yeah, this was tricky because there really wasn't, and we even saw this in the playoffs. I think, Frank, that there wasn't like a single guy who had like a game or a series of games that just totally dominated. And in past years we've seen guys like Tyree Coleman who like set the sack record, and we've seen other players have these certain statistics, but this year wasn't quite that way. So we sort of took a little different track on this to try to think of guys who were situationally, athletically, guys who could play almost like multiple positions. Like their defensive coaches, would put them out on a receiver if they had to, or they would put them inside as a linebacker. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yes, I do.
So we factored all that in, and I think this pick, while some people might be like, well, he wasn't even the number one all conference defensive player. That's not the picture here. Like this guy led his team into a conference title, into the playoffs, went head to head with Mount Union, and really gave them about as close a call. So I think that this if based on all this different kind of criteria we're throwing out here, then it would make sense that this guy should be the defensive player of the season.
Congratulations to Muhlenberg linebacker Spencer Kieran. And when we look at defense here, we include a little bit of his special teams fourth down defensive play as well, with 4 block punts or block kicks on the season.
Yeah, and changed the whole their season.
The Hopkins game, the block 6 that he got basically in that punt, we turned that game around, because that game was going nowhere fast for the offenses for both teams, and he gave them at least that spot that put Johns Hopkins behind the 8 ball for the rest of the game.
Yep.
And his play in that Mount Union game, the leadership that he exuded throughout the season. We said it about Ian Barr, who was a linebacker from Westminster, our spring player of the year on defense. If you like Ian Barr, you got to love Spencer Kieran for the same reasons. And as you said, they would put him out on receivers as linebacker without much problem. Yeah, maybe the size situation is part of that. When we talked to Spencer.
That's part of D3 too, though.
Yeah, we talked to him about it in our interview with him leading into that game in the semifinals. But, JB, when you really look at the quality of play, the quality of leadership, it was tough to get off that name. In fact, we talked to Nate Mill. We're like, do you think we're off our rocker for this? And he's like, no, absolutely not, when you look at it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on him?
No, he just made big plays when he had to, and helped his team win some really critical games. And that versatility, that sort of ability to do multiple roles is really something that stands out in a year where, to be honest, there wasn't a singular uber dominant defensive player that I can think of right off the top of my head. And even when you look through the statistic books in the NCAA website, there were some guys who had a lot of sacks and interceptions, but some of their teams just didn't advance as far as Muhlenberg did, and I think you've got to factor that into the equation.
The Dal Valls of the world, for instance, who had a great team of defense, there's no doubt.
Absolutely.
Wheaton's Dallas McRae is somebody we tossed around as well. You can't shortchange his season as well. But when we just looked at the top to bottom, all the components we try to check off in this, Spencer Kieran is our defensive player of the season for fall 2021 on In the Huddle. And finally, special teams. I mean, it's tough to look away from this player, despite the fact he didn't have a deep playoff run, and part of the blame of that is putting an undefeated team against St. John's was, I don't think, the right move by the committee. But
that was a penny pincher, but what are you going to do?
Let's talk about A.J. Jackson, who I think he's still running back punts or touchdowns, even in the offseason right now.
Yeah. Don't kick the ball to that guy, guys.
No. I mean, you want to talk about a singular player. I mean, a great receiver, don't get me wrong. But
absolutely, but
just teams would kick to him. And kicked to him, and kicked to him.
And kept regretting it.
Forgive this statement, but it was a dumbass move to do it that much.
Indeed,
okay, folks?
Indeed.
And we are a family show, and I think I need to underline that word for anybody that would kick to him. A.J. Jackson from Lake Forest, the Foresters, have a player of the season in special teams. Any thoughts there?
No, I mean, in a year where we did see some pretty strong kicking and other performances. I think Boswell from Hobart had a few pretty awesome kick return touchdowns, but it seemed like every week we were talking about A.J. Jackson either returning a punt or a kickoff or a touchdown. Plus, he's a great wide receiver. He's All-American. Just seemed to check all the boxes, and we didn't see any guys kicking 50-yard field goals every week. So I think kind of a no-brainer.
Let's review Coach of the Season, Ralph Iserni of RPI. Offensive Player of the Season, Kyle King, quarterback from Mary Hardin-Baylor, who's claims he'll be back, so we'll see if he can repeat next season. Defensive Player of the Season was Spencer Kieran, senior from Muhlenberg. The Special Teams Player of the Season, A.J. Jackson from Lake Forest. And the
Coach Cat guys.
Yes, and the newcomer/rookie of the season, Luke Lanin, quarterback, freshman technically, of North Central. JB, we talked about it in the open. We are on location on this special show, and I will let you do the introductions here.
Well, we have with us a state championship undefeated coach from here in Orlando, Lake Highland Prep, the Highlanders. Ran it all the way back to a state title this year, and we have, a D3 guy leading the way.
I appreciate it.
And so how can we not? We're in the D3 football huddle. We got to have Coach Ben Bullock on. So, Frank was asking me earlier, a little bit about your background. Why don't you tell the folks like your D3 roots?
Yeah, I appreciate it. First of all, it was a great season. Our kids and our coaches did a great job. It was an unbelievable season to be able to go undefeated, win a state championship here, and it's awesome to be able to talk football in beautiful Florida weather right now too.
Yeah, it's not so bad, right?
My background, I grew up in upstate New York. Grew up in Binghamton, New York, a little town called Maine, and went to Maine Annual High School, coached by Coach Dick Russ, and then I was fortunate enough to go and play for Coach Salomon at Brockport State. Was there in 1999, 2000. 2000 was our undefeated regular season, and lost to a great Springfield team in the first round, and then 2001 had another great season, 9-1, and lost to Rowan in the first round. Back when Rowan was
the beast of these.
Yes, they were awesome. Really good team. We had them tight in the fourth quarter and just couldn't pull it off, and that was I still remember that was the goal the following year in 2002 was to get to Rowan and beat Rowan at Rowan, and we were fortunate. We played Springfield again in the first round. Went down to Rowan, beat Rowan at Rowan, and then we lost to a fantastic John Carroll team in the Elite Eight.
I remember that
Tom Arth, and Tom Arth was coaching at Chattanooga, and I believe at Akron, and he's been a couple different places, but he was unbelievable. And that game was 10-10 with 20 seconds left. We go to kick a field goal, they block it, go to overtime, and Tom Arth took over there and won 16-10. So it was, a lot of my coaching, my playing, my time in Division III football really shaped a lot of, what we do here and my time coaching. And if it wasn't for those opportunities with Coach Salomon, that's kind of where I got my jump into coaching. I ended up being an intern the next year after getting done playing. I was a graduate assistant. I was full-time for 3 years after that there. So I was 5 years there as a coach, 4 as a player. So I spent more time there coaching than I did actually playing. So now I was a player in Division III, coached there. Moved on to Hartwick College as the defensive coordinator for 4 years with Coach Carr. It was awesome to get an opportunity to coach with him there in Oneonta. And then when I got done there in 2011, was our last season. 2012, I moved here to Florida with my wife. My wife was already here in Orlando, and we decided to make Orlando our home, and been here ever since. So
I've been here since about 2012 too. So right around there, almost 10 years.
I can't believe it's been 10 years already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We were talking earlier. John Audino was kind of my exposure to this point of Division III recruiting Florida. Over at Union, he seemed to have some good inroads down in the state, especially South Florida area. Are you noticing, compared to when you started coaching a few years back, we'll call it at this point, a more pronounced appearance by Division III coaches coming into the state of Florida to find the talent that Division I just can't absorb here in Florida?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially in my 10 years. Obviously, I only got 10 years of experience down here as a head coach, but I've definitely seen
a decade is still.
We've got some great coaches down here that have been here a while. But they, I tell my time here, not even growing up here, but just in the 10 years that you've seen a definite increase in the schools that are coming down here to recruit, whether it be via the recruiting fairs in February, where you'll go to Lake Wales, or even there's a spot here in Central Florida where colleges can come down and meet with many players and coaches in a relatively short period of time, or they come and visit. For us, because of the style of school we are, we'll get a high amount of the NESCAT schools. We have 2 players right now, one at Wesleyan, one at Hamilton, in that league. So because of our academics, that's a great place for those schools to come find a player outside of the Northeast would be at a school like ours in Florida. So
now if we could just get the NESCAT to be in the playoffs and see how they measure against the other teams.
That's beyond my pay.
That's
for somebody else.
That's for somebody else. Never figure that one out.
Take it away, sir.
Well, Coach, as far as like this actual past football season. I mean,
Sure.
obviously we all know what we went through with COVID, and we talked a little bit about like Coach Acernia from RPI and how they struggled to get their practices together. The school was really not helping them out along that time period. What's it been like for you? I mean, obviously, Florida has been a little more open than some of the other states in some respects, but as a coach and all the different COVID protocols and all that, I mean, what was it like for you guys to go through, and did it make that, this season, that much better? I mean, obviously going undefeated is great, but after what you had to overcome.
Our school, I think, we were a much more conservative approach than maybe some of our schools around the area, but I think we did a great job of balancing all of it, balancing the safety of our kids, while also trying to get our kids back to doing in-school education, in-school athletics and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think we did a great job here of trying to find that balance of safety, but also getting back to actual in-school. And we've been in school since that time, since August of 2020.
Yeah.
It started out for us, in that time when we were home, of Zoom meetings and things that some other people did. Our kids did a great job with that. And then we got to some socially distant workouts in the summertime. And then we didn't really start practicing until the second week of September and started playing games in October.
Yeah.
A shortened season in 2020, but we were able to play, and we talked to our kids a lot about being grateful for the opportunity to get out there and play, because we knew unfortunately some other areas in the country weren't able to yet.
Yeah.
Got out there and played in 2020. I really felt 2020 we could have made an even bigger jump for us in the program, but because of not having a spring and a summer, we had to put things there quickly and go play some games, and it wasn't quite the jump. Then coming into this year, being able to get into a full school year, a spring practice, a summer like we do here in Florida, we really made another huge jump and really catapult us in there. I think our kids did a really good job of not making excuses for that time and finding a way to still improve, whether they were home or away or we had to be apart. We didn't really make excuses about it. We found a way still to improve ourselves and our team.
Yeah.
And we made the best of that time and actually got something out of that time, and that propelled us into 2021. So I think you could have gone two ways. You could complain about the loss of time, or you could have done something about it that was within your control and got better. And I think our kids did a great job of doing that.
Yeah.
Coach, last question for you. When you really get down to the idea of a lot of the kids in South Florida that are great on the football field are Division I mindset all the way. And like I alluded to in the last question, there's just not enough teams to absorb them necessarily across the country. You've had probably to have the conversation about, hey, Division III isn't a bad move, it isn't a bad idea. Kind of give us that speech that you give to them for anybody out there that might be facing the same situation. We have a lot of parents that do watch us that have players that may be interested in Division III or might be forced into that tack, I guess, as the best move. What do you say to your players about Division III?
Well, let me start at the beginning of that question with you. I think it was part of the last question, was that because of Florida not having as many smaller school opportunities, we really just have the big schools. Our guys understand that they have a very small percentage chance of the kids in Florida are going to be able to stay in Florida to play football.
True.
You're going to have to leave, whether that's for another Division I program or Division II or Division III. You're going to have to leave anyway. And our school does a really good job preparing our kids for that they're going to have to leave and go out there and try to find a higher academic institution that wants to play football. Now, Division III wise is a great place that if you're serious about your academics, like we are here, like you can balance of having a great athletic career and also having a great academic career. And I feel like, again, like I said earlier, a lot of my training for where I am in life was because I played Division III football and because I went to a great school that prepared me to teach, prepare me to be in education. And I talk about all the time with my wife about how well prepared we felt of being a part of some schools in the Northeast to then be into our careers that we are now. So we talk a lot about being able to balance that. I have a unique situation because I played Division III. I was able to play two sports. That doesn't happen at other places. That doesn't happen.
Talk about Luke Lane in North Central playing baseball and football. It just doesn't happen. You're right.
I was able to play football and lacrosse at Brockport, and that doesn't happen at other schools. So there's a lot of different unique opportunities that you find at Division III that you're not going to find in some other places. And for our guys, especially if you're looking for a very high academic schools, gosh, you can rip off so many great schools at the Division III level that you're going to get a great education and you're going to get to play a high level of football. I mean, I played with some guys and coached some guys that Josh Warner back in 2000 played in the league, played in the NFL. Yeah. We've had some guys that were high-level players, and you're going to play with some really, really, really good football players. So you're going to get the balance of both worlds, and if you're looking for that, Division III is really the place to be. And like I said, for our guys, what's the number now? Division III playing schools, 240-ish
right now. 47.
I was guessing it was
45.
about 250 range somewhere in there.
We were at 250, lost a bunch, about 240 now officially.
So you're going to have a lot more opportunities out there because of what you're looking for academically and athletically, because of the number of schools too. And they're prepared, and we talk to our guys about that, to prepare them to have to leave Florida to find opportunities.
Well, we're glad a lot of them did, because they've made it an entertaining division, that's for sure. Yeah. Give you a chance for any shout-outs that you want to make. Normally it's a player thing, but you know what? You let us on campus here, so any shout-outs?
No, I appreciate it. I just want to say hi to my guys at Brockport. Coach Mangoni was offensive coordinator. Took a chance on me when I was a young coach, and I was his assistant, his wide receiver assistant for a while. And Coach Fox I know really well there at Brockport, and all those guys, Coach Potter, all those guys. Coach Carr at Harwood gave me an opportunity to be a coordinator for the first time, and really enjoyed my time there. And Oneonta is where I met my wife, and where she's from. So so a lot of really great things, and a lot of great memories, and a lot of great people that I was a part of when I was in Division III football. Was Potter always the comedian he is now? I think so. I don't know him as well. I know Steve, but I don't know him as well as Coach Fox and Coach Mangoni. Gosh, Coach Mangoni's known me since I was a young freshman in 1999 at Brockport State. So he's known me in my whole career there. So awesome. I really appreciate those guys taking a chance on me and getting my coaching career started. And I have a lot of love for the Division III world. I'm gonna have to talk to you about your aging secrets, because you haven't aged a bit. Oh, and I hate you for that. But anyway, Coach, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having us. Thanks for coming in. No problem. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, that leaves us with just Twitter questions. Just Twitter questions? Yeah, it's not just. Trust me here. There's going to be a lot more to this than you think. First things first, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. The D3 Constitution on the day that we're recording this, or the NCAA Constitution, was approved by about 80% of the vote there, and that's mainly a Division I, Division II approval, I'm sure. Division III did not have as much support, but they had a decent amount. And so,
maybe 3% support?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Well, the amount of money that's going to be in Division III's championship coffers is the same pretty much as it's been in terms of percentage. Yeah, 3% and change. But
3 for 3.
Overall, there was some discussion about whether or not it should have been higher, and it stayed where it is, and so there's that. Michael Memis, what super conferences would you want to see in D3 football? Tough one there, because
we've always joked around since the early days of this show that the New York Super Conference, combine the Empire 8 and the Liberty League. We've been kind of kicking that around sort of as tongue-in-cheek for over a decade now. But I think ultimately it's going to depend on the games. At least these conferences figured out ways to schedule non-conference games together, because in the geographic location sort of assists, and if not makes it kind of necessary. With some of this realignment or other challenges you're saying, if I was the NJAC, I would probably be calling up Jimmy Robertson and FDU Forum, be like, hey, come on down, we need help. We need you. Yeah, we need you. So
look, a 6-team conference will have to schedule for a 10-team schedule.
That's the ECFC.
5 out of conference games. 5.
That's where the ECFC is, and they're losing SUNY Maritime in another year or two, and so they're gonna have an uphill battle. At least places like Keystone, and I think Eastern in Pennsylvania is starting up football, so we're going to see some new teams coming on board, and maybe that helps solve some of the issue. But
there we go. Jason Rudolph, here's some hot stove off-season thinking. Is there any connection between the Division I transfer portal of the past several years and decrease of D1 transfers to the old D3 powers? Is it adding to more parity in D3?
It's a good question.
It's a tough question, too.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's leading to parity was COVID ultimately, too, and the ability to keep some superstars on your team around a little bit longer through this past season. But then the perennial powers still became your top teams in your listing ultimately. So that's a tough one to face. I would say I think maybe is the answer, but I don't think it's just that. I think it's the exposure that the internet is giving more and more to Division III programs across the country is allowing for more choice, that Mount Union isn't the only one that gets named out there anymore.
Yeah, that's a big change for sure, especially in the last 5 years. And I think too, unfortunately for the kids at like the D1 and FCS level, there is a bit of like a backlog, and there's people that are coming and going, and then I have a feeling it's not going to necessarily impact D3 as much. We don't really have data that you can really look at and see. Every so often you hear about, oh, this guy transferred from here or there, but it's really hard to kind of quantify. But I think at least short term, if there's less opportunities for kids at the, FBS, FCS level, you'd have to assume that, they could possibly be trickling down elsewhere, but we can't really say for sure.
And then we'll go to the worst of Division III. I normally wouldn't do this, but you know what? What the heck? Purple Suit asks, is Frank Rossi driving up in a Subaru? How does the UMHB losing a majority of their coaching staff affect 21? How many used cars do they need to acquire? Okay, Purple Suit, first things first. Yeah.
The Subaru, come on, man.
The most abused, overused story to try to, as they say, tool on UMHB. Here's the thing about UMHB that maybe everybody lost. In 2018 and in 2021, they pretty much proved that the stupidity of the penalties in the first place didn't really take away from who they are and what they are. They are a national champion caliber team that started a program in the late 90s.
Yeah, early 2000s, yeah.
Or at least caught fire then. And, if you really feel like you need to go there and attack the team for those reasons, you're missing the whole idea of why they're a great team, okay? They're homophobic, somebody told us online. There's this or that.
Yeah, they've treated you so badly.
Oh, yeah. I really don't want to go back to Belton for that reason. No, they've treated me as, a member of the media that respects them and vice versa. Yeah. And there's been no discussion like that. So anybody that wants to start going down this road, and we've got people left and right on Twitter, and we're not Mary Hardin-Baylor apologists, we're reality folks here at the end of the day. And the reality is they're a great football team that gets great players, and they're continuing to roll in the division. So you can either sit there and act like that, or you can do something about it and recruit better on your own teams and beat them, okay?
Or ask your college president to build a stadium and a locker room like they have in Belton. I mean, there's a reason why they're attracting a lot of top talent. I mean, you look at the facilities and you look at the uniforms and the whole thing, like the coverage. I mean, that is a school that is 100% behind their team, and it's not really the case with other Division III schools across the country. It just isn't.
Now, to answer the serious part of the question that was in the middle there, with the loss of the different coaches going on, replacing a lot of the coaching staff, will it affect the team? Okay, I'll give you that legitimate question, Purple Suit. The answer is, I don't think so, because I believe that Randy O'Rare, the president of the school that I got to speak with after the win on our D3 football broadcast, he values that program, knows what it adds to the school at the end of the day, and is going to make sure that they get the right assistants, the right coordinators to replace, the riser and the lever and whoever else you want to call it there.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be fine. There may be some slight adjustment period going on there. Do I have them as my favorite to repeat next year right now sitting here? I don't think so, but
it's so hard to do.
It's tough to, because I could say that in the abstract. I haven't really thought about who might beat them. North Central is going to be up there in my book still.
Yeah.
And Mount Union never can call them off.
No.
So that's a question for a future day. Whitewater, absolutely. So the perennials, and then there's the Muhlenbergs of the world who, let's see how they retool.
On the door still, yeah.
Yep. But point being this, I think Mary Hardin-Baylor will be okay. Maybe not next year's champion, but maybe the following year they'll be back in the conversation. Who knows? Your final thoughts?
Well, I think the Hawk agrees with you on all your prior comments. But yeah, I would say that, especially, and I'm not a real religious guy, right? I know you go to church regularly, that faith is important to you. And one of the things that I've really seen from the Mary Hardin-Baylor just overall program family, that is a very, faith-based, be kind to your fellow man, kind of, treat each other with respect, like work hard and, treat each other as like your brother and all this type of thing. Is there stuff that goes on at top football programs that may or may not be, couth? Like, who knows? I mean, you could point your finger and make accusations at anybody at this point, these days. But all the individuals that I've been in contact associated with that are top-notch, like salt of the earth people who, really kind of they live by their faith. That's the whole focus of their program down there, I think, and there's something to be said for that. So I don't know, the Subaru joke.
I think that's about 6 years too late at this point, and in the meantime, they keep rolling, folks. So, like I said, go out and beat them. Until somebody does, we're going to have them as our reigning national champs, but we have a lot more to talk about in this offseason, about pro prospects, about next year as we get closer to season 15 of the show. So we'll be back, and we'll see what happens with this 6-team proposal as well. So look for us soon. Look for us on Twitter in the meantime, as you usually do, at D3FB Huddle, at Frank Rossi. And we will have a lot of information and news for you in the meantime. For instance, we think that Buffalo State has a new coach coming from Cortland. So go look at our Twitter about that. It has not been formally announced. Football Scoop has that. And we'll not name names here, but we'll see if that develops. But there'll be a lot of coaching changes to talk about. And you'll hear it here or see it on our social media of In the Huddle. Thanks for joining us all season long. And now in the postseason, we will see you soon.